Stay alone until you master yourself. Because solitude is the mirror that reveals who you truly are. When you spend time alone, the distractions fade, and what remains is your raw self, the version that cannot hide behind noise, validation, or approval. In solitude, your thoughts echo louder, and your emotions surface without filters. Most people run from this silence because it exposes their weaknesses, fears, and insecurities. But the truth is, you can never conquer what you refuse to face. Solitude gives you that rare chance to face your reflection and work on it without external influence. It is not about isolating from the world forever, but about developing a deep connection with your own mind, learning emotional discipline, and finding peace without needing constant stimulation. When you stay alone long enough, you begin to understand why you react the way you do, why certain people or situations trigger you, and what truly gives you fulfillment. Mastering yourself means taking responsibility for your emotions, your habits, and your peace. It's when you no longer blame others for how you feel or what you lack. Alone time is not loneliness. It is the training ground for self-awareness, emotional control, and clarity of purpose. Those who master solitude, because they are not afraid of their own company, they learn to think clearly, move intentionally, and live with a sense of inner power that cannot be shaken by external chaos. When you stay alone, you strip away all illusions. You start seeing life for what it is, not for what people pretend it to be. In solitude, there is no one to impress, no one to compete with, and no one to seek approval from. You begin to realize how much of your past behavior was shaped by the desire to fit in or be accepted. Staying alone helps you unlearn these conditioned patterns. It allows you to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I without validation? What do I truly believe in? What kind of life do I want to live? These questions open doors to inner strength. Many people avoid being alone because it feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is exactly what leads to growth. It's a detox from emotional dependency. You begin to separate what you want from what others expect of you. The more time you spend alone, the stronger your sense of identity becomes. You no longer chase attention because you understand your worth without it. You no longer fear silence because silence becomes your teacher. In that stillness, you build emotional balance, and balance is what makes you unstoppable in a chaotic world. Stay alone until your peace cannot be disturbed by noise or absence, until your happiness comes from within, and until your purpose is louder than any distraction. Mastering yourself begins with mastering your mind. And that mastery requires solitude, because the mind is most honest when it's not performing for an audience. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your thoughts are influenced by their energy, opinions, and expectations. Alone, you can observe your mind without distortion. You can see your fears, desires, and insecurities rise to the surface. This awareness is painful, but necessary. True growth begins when you stop escaping your inner chaos and start listening to it. Solitude helps you reprogram your thinking patterns. It's where you catch your negative thoughts before they control you. It's where you build the discipline to choose peace over reaction, patience over anger, and clarity over confusion. The world rewards noise, but wisdom grows in silence. The more you practice being alone, the more you understand how to control your mental state, regardless of what happens around you. Mastering your mind means you don't get lost in emotional storms. You become an observer of your thoughts rather than their victim. Solitude is not a punishment, it's a sacred process. It's where your mental strength is forged. Stay alone until you can think clearly, until your inner voice is stronger than the voices of doubt, and until your peace no longer depends on external validation. There comes a time in life when you realize that the company you keep can either make you or break you. Until you master yourself, you will always attract people who reflect your unhealed parts. Solitude allows you to step away from toxic environments and understand what kind of energy you truly need in your life. When you spend time alone, you become selective. You stop settling for temporary comfort and start seeking genuine connection. You begin to see that being alone is far better than being surrounded by people who drain your energy. Mastering yourself means building boundaries without guilt. It means learning to say no without fear. Solitude teaches you to value your time, your energy, and your mental space. You learn to identify when someone's presence is costing you your peace. Staying alone helps you reset your standards. You stop chasing attention and start attracting alignment. You no longer need others to fill your emptiness because you've already filled it with self-awareness and purpose. Once you've mastered yourself, you become magnetic. Not because you seek approval, but because your energy radiates calm confidence. People sense that you don't need them, and ironically, that's what draws the right ones toward you. Staying alone is a form of emotional training. It teaches you how to regulate your emotions without depending on external comfort. Most people run to distractions, music, social media, relationships, to escape their feelings. But true mastery happens when you face those emotions head-on, when you sit in silence and let the sadness, anger, or confusion move through you without reacting. You build emotional endurance. You realize that feelings are temporary, that they come and go like waves. Solitude allows you to witness that process without judgment. You start responding instead of reacting. You stop running and start understanding. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing emotions. It's about controlling how you express them. Alone, you learn to transform pain into purpose and loneliness into self-knowledge. The more you train your emotions in solitude, the less power external situations have over you. People who have mastered their emotions cannot be easily manipulated because they understand their inner world too well. Stay alone until you can feel deeply without losing control, until you can face any emotion without fear, and until you can choose peace even when chaos surrounds you. When you stay alone long enough, you begin to understand that peace is not found in people, places, or possessions. It's built inside you. Most of the world is searching for happiness outside themselves, chasing achievements, validation, or relationships to feel complete. But solitude teaches you that wholeness doesn't come from addition, it comes from realization. You realize that nothing external can fill an internal void. The moment you stop chasing and start observing, you begin to feel content with what is. This kind of peace cannot be bought or faked. It's earned through silence, reflection, and inner work. When you're alone, you see clearly how your mind reacts to boredom, uncertainty, and emptiness. You learn to sit with discomfort until it transforms into calmness. This is how real peace grows, not from avoiding problems, but from facing them with patience. Staying alone helps you build emotional stability. You stop depending on others to make you feel loved, because you've learned to love yourself. You stop seeking distractions, because stillness becomes enjoyable. The world becomes quieter inside you. Mastering yourself means creating peace so strong that nothing external can disturb it. Stay alone until your silence feels like music. Your solitude feels like strength, and your peace becomes your power. Being alone gives you the space to rebuild your focus. The modern world is filled with noise, constant scrolling, and endless opinions. People are losing their ability to think deeply or stay committed to a single goal. But solitude rewires your mind. It removes distractions and forces you to sit with your thoughts long enough to understand what truly matters. When you stay alone, your priorities become clear. You start to see how much time you've wasted on things that don't serve your purpose. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it needs practice. Alone, you can train your attention. You can learn to concentrate on what truly builds your life, rather than what entertains your mind. You become intentional with your time, your habits, and your thoughts. You begin to realize that your future depends on what you do in silence, not what you display in public. Solitude gives birth to discipline. It's where you turn your ideas into action. The more time you spend alone, the stronger your focus becomes, and the stronger your focus, the faster your growth. Stay alone until your attention becomes a weapon, until distractions lose their power, and until you can work in silence knowing that your results will speak for you. To master yourself, you must learn to be your own motivation. Most people rely on others to inspire them, but that kind of motivation fades quickly. The strength that lasts comes from within, from a mind that can push itself, even when no one is watching. Solitude is where you build that internal drive. When you stay alone, there's no one to cheer you on, no one to remind you why you started. It's just you and your goals. And that's where real resilience is born. You learn to push through laziness, doubt, and fear. You stop waiting for the perfect time or mood, because you realize progress only comes from consistent effort. When you learn to motivate yourself, you become unstoppable. You don't need validation, because you've learned to validate yourself. You don't need applause, because your purpose fuels you. Staying alone teaches you to rely on your inner strength. It trains your mind to be independent. Every day you choose to keep going without external encouragement, you grow stronger. Stay alone until your ambition is louder than your excuses, until your discipline outshines your doubt, and until your motivation flows from within, not from approval or recognition. Solitude is the soil where self-discipline grows. When you're alone, you're forced to confront how you use your time, how you handle your impulses, and how you follow through on your commitments. There's no one to blame when you procrastinate, no one to impress when you work. Only you and your habits. This is why solitude is uncomfortable for many. It reveals the truth about their consistency. But if you embrace it, it becomes your greatest advantage. Being alone helps you build structure and control. You start creating routines that align with your goals instead of reacting to life randomly. You begin to see the connection between small daily actions and long-term results. Discipline doesn't mean perfection, it means persistence. Solitude helps you understand this. It teaches you to do the work, even when it's boring, to keep moving when progress is invisible, and to trust the process, even when the results are slow. Mastering yourself means mastering your habits. It means building a lifestyle that supports your peace, growth, and purpose. Stay alone until you no longer need motivation to act, until your consistency becomes automatic, and until discipline becomes your natural state of being. The journey of mastering yourself through solitude is not easy, but it's worth every moment. You will face loneliness, doubt, and emotional discomfort. But remember, these are signs of growth, not failure. Solitude exposes the noise inside you so that you can finally quiet it. Every day spent alone is a step toward emotional independence. You begin to notice subtle shifts. Your reactions slow down, your patience increases, and your confidence strengthens. You stop needing constant reassurance because you trust your own judgment. Solitude teaches you emotional maturity. You stop blaming circumstances for your mood and start controlling your responses. You learn that peace is a choice, not a result of perfect conditions. Staying alone gives you the power to choose your state of mind, no matter what happens. Once you master that, no person or situation can take away your calm. Solitude transforms you from reactive to reflective, from dependent to independent, from uncertain to grounded. Stay alone until your loneliness turns into peace, your silence turns into wisdom, and your solitude turns into the most valuable relationship you'll ever have. The one with yourself. When you stay alone and begin to master yourself, you start to realize how much power lies in detachment. Most suffering comes from attachment to people, outcomes, or expectations. Solitude helps you loosen your grip on what you cannot control. You start understanding that peace comes not from holding tighter, but from letting go. When you're alone, you learn to release what doesn't serve you. You stop chasing closure from others because you create it within yourself. You stop expecting people to understand you because you understand yourself. Detachment is not coldness, it's freedom. It's the ability to remain calm, even when life doesn't go your way. It's knowing that you can love deeply without losing yourself. Staying alone helps you see that everything in life is temporary. Pain, joy, people, opportunities. And that clinging only creates suffering. Once you embrace this truth, you move through life with quiet strength. You stop forcing connections, stop fearing endings, and start trusting the flow of life. Mastering yourself means mastering the art of detachment, loving without obsession, living without fear, and giving without expecting. Stay alone until you no longer seek permanence in a temporary world, until you find peace in letting go, and until your calm is unshakable regardless of what leaves or stays. Solitude also gives you the chance to redefine success. When you are surrounded by people, it's easy to absorb their definitions. wealth, popularity, validation. But when you stay alone, you can finally ask yourself, what does success mean to me? You start realizing that success is not measured by how many people clap for you, but by how peaceful you feel when you wake up. You begin to see that inner freedom, emotional balance, and a sense of purpose matter more than status or recognition. Alone, you learn that you don't need to live by anyone else's timeline. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that everyone's journey is unique. Solitude gives you clarity about what truly fulfills you. Maybe it's creativity, service, wisdom, or simplicity. You begin to live intentionally instead of reactively. You realize that slow growth is still growth, and that silence often leads to breakthroughs. Once you master yourself, success stops being about competition and becomes about alignment. Living in harmony with who you are and what you value. Stay alone until you define success on your own terms, until your goals reflect your truth, and until your peace becomes your greatest achievement. Staying alone for a period of self-mastery will also teach you how to heal. Healing doesn't happen in noise or distraction. It happens in quiet reflection. When you're alone, memories surface, the ones you've buried under business or denial. At first, it hurts to face them, but slowly, you begin to understand them. You realize why certain patterns repeated, why you accepted less than you deserved, and why certain people came into your life as lessons. Solitude allows you to process your pain without judgment. You stop blaming and start forgiving, not for others, but for your own peace. Healing is not forgetting. It's accepting without bitterness. Alone, you learn that forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It frees you from emotional chains. You start to see your wounds as teachers, guiding you towards self-awareness. Every moment of silence becomes a step toward wholeness. You stop seeking closure outside because you find it within. True healing is when your past no longer controls your emotions. Stay alone until your pain becomes wisdom, until your scars remind you of strength, and until you can love again. Not from emptiness, but from a place of peace. Once you master yourself, your solitude transforms from isolation into empowerment. You start to enjoy your own company. You read, think, and create not because you have to, but because you want to. You no longer feel the need to fill every silence with noise. You begin to use your time for growth instead of distraction. You find joy in learning, peace in discipline, and strength in reflection. Being alone becomes a choice, not a punishment. You stop chasing people because you've realized that alignment attracts naturally. You stop explaining yourself because your energy speaks for you. Solitude becomes your sanctuary, a space where you recharge, refocus, and realign. Once you master yourself, you no longer fear being misunderstood or judged. Because you've learned to validate yourself, you know who you are, and that clarity makes you unshakable. You stop needing attention because your presence has become enough. Stay alone until your own energy inspires you, until your silence becomes sacred, and until your company becomes your favorite place to be. Eventually, solitude leads to transformation. You emerge from it a different person, calmer, wiser, stronger, and more grounded. The world may not understand your silence, but you no longer need it to. You've built an inner world so rich that external validation feels irrelevant. Mastering yourself means mastering life. Because when you can control your emotions, focus your mind, and direct your energy, there is nothing you cannot achieve. You've learned to observe without reacting, to act without seeking reward, and to love without losing yourself. You've turned loneliness into power, silence into clarity, and solitude into freedom. The goal was never to stay alone forever. It was to become whole enough to choose company from a place of peace, not need. When you've mastered yourself, relationships become better because you bring completeness, not emptiness. Life becomes lighter because you're not fighting your own mind. You begin to move through the world with quiet confidence, aware, balanced, and free. Stay alone until you become that person, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't fear, and doesn't break. Stay alone until your presence becomes peace itself, and your solitude becomes your greatest strength. Thank you for watching this video.